Oh, my love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. Oh, my love is like a melody that's sweetly played in tune. So fair art thou, my bonny lass, so deep in love am I, and I will love thee still, my dear, till all the seas gang dry. Till all the seas gang dry, my dear, and the rocks melt with the sun. I will love thee still, my dear, while the sands of life shall run. And fare thee well, my only love, and fare thee well a while, and I will come again, my love, though it were 10,000 mile. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tales of Fae and Folklore. I was feeling romantic today and decided to discuss a few stories from folklore and mythology that focus on love. This is Romance in Folklore, Part 1. The Tale of Cliodhna and Ciabhan. Cliodhna was the queen of the Banshees and a Tuatha De Danann, an ancient race of godlike beings who populated Ireland before mortals arrived. She was beautiful, and she lived on the island of Tir Nigir, which means the land of promise. She had 3 lovely birds who had the ability to cure any ailment by singing. These birds ate the fruit from a specific magical tree that gave them these abilities. One day, Cliodhna met a mortal man named Ciabhan. He was struck by her beauty, and the two fell instantly in love. She loved him so much she decided to leave her home and live a mortal life in Ireland with Ciabhan. The old Irish deities did not approve. The 2 lovers were traveling around Ireland and decided to rest on the coast of Cork in a place called Glandore. The sea god, Manon Maclear, son of the sea, decided to take action and put a stop to their love. He sent one of his minstrels to play beautiful, mesmerizing music to lure them out into the waters. Ciabhan heard this and began moving towards the music, but Cliodhna stopped him as she feared for his mortal life. As she moved closer, she too became entranced by the music and moved further into the water. The music grew louder, and Cliodhna fell into a deep sleep. Manon sent a large wave to pull her defenseless body into the sea. Ciabhan was unable to reach her in time, and the 2 lovers were parted forever. To this day, the strong tides of Glandore are called Ton Cliodhna, Cliodhna's wave, reminding us of the powerful, treacherous tide that pulled these 2 lovers apart. In some versions of the story, Cliodhna is trying to get to Ciabhan in the mortal world. While crossing the sea, she gets pulled under before she can even reach him. The Tale of Orpheus and Eurydice. Orpheus was known as an extremely talented music player. His music would open the minds of listeners to new ideas and theories. His mother was the muse Calliope. His father was King Ogyges of Thrace, but some say his father was the god Apollo. Orpheus' music would draw others towards him, people, animals, spirits, nymphs, and during one particular performance, a wood nymph named Eurydice came to listen to him sing. She had been drawn by his voice and his lyre. Orpheus couldn't take his eyes off of Eurydice. The spell of the music had entranced them, and their hearts pulled them towards the other. They fell so deeply in love they couldn't spend a single moment apart. Their love and happiness grew stronger every day, and they decided to get married. Their wedding was joyous and was blessed by Hymenaeus, the god of marriage. They had a large feast and celebrated until the sky grew dark and their guests began to leave. The 2 lovers departed for home, walking hand in hand and looking at the stars. They frolicked in their joy when suddenly Eurydice's hand slipped from Orpheus's. He looked behind to find her on the ground, Her skin had gone pale and cold. Eurydice had unknowingly stepped on a nest of snakes, and she was bitten by a deadly viper. She died in his arms. Orpheus was devastated. He could not continue on without Eurydice. Desperate, he developed a plan. He would go to the god Apollo and ask for an audience with Hades, the god of the underworld. With his voice and his lyre, he entered into the underworld. He made his plea to Hades and Persephone through song. His heartbreak shone through his voice and his music. Hades openly wept for his loss. Persephone's heart melted for him. Even Cerberus, the three-headed dog that guarded the entry to the underworld, howled in despair. His song was so moving that Hades promised Orpheus that Eurydice would follow him to the world of the living. There was only one condition. Orpheus could not look back while Eurydice was still in the dark. For absolutely no reason could he look back at her until they entered the light together. With hope in his heart and joy at the anticipation of seeing Eurydice again, he began his journey out of the underworld. As he walked, he could hear the footsteps of his wife, but controlled his urge to turn and hug her. He forced himself to keep his eyes forward. As he neared the light of the mortal world, his excitement grew. The moment he stepped into the light, he turned, ready to embrace his wife. But he turned before Eurydice could reach the light, and she was pulled back into the underworld and away from Orpheus forever. Orpheus tried to enter the underworld again, but was refused entry. Distraught, he wandered day and night, playing music that conveyed his deep sorrow. The story of his death is different in a few versions of this tale. In one, he dies many years later and is reunited with Eurydice. In another, he dies soon after Eurydice. He refuses any woman who shows interest in him, and eventually a group of angry women tear him to pieces while he lays staring up at the sky, sending pieces of his body into the river, which leads to the island of Lesbos. There, the muses find his lyre and his head and give him a proper burial. It was believed that you could hear music coming from his grave. Although this story is beautiful, it makes me angry that Orpheus couldn't be patient enough for Eurydice to leave the underworld. He could have had everything he wanted if only he waited a few seconds longer. To me, this is a good example of patience being a virtue. There is another story about lovers being parted by death in Hindi folklore. The story of Savitri and Satyavan. Savitri is a beautiful princess who hadn't found a suitable suitor yet. Her father suggested that she go out and find a husband of her own choosing. She searches the kingdom and meets Satyavan, the son of a blind monarch who lived in the forest. Satyavan's family had been exiled from their kingdom. Satyavan and his family were now poor, but Savitri fell in love with him as he was a good man. She told the sage about him and her decision to choose him as a husband. Unfortunately, the sage had a prediction that Satyavan would be dead within a year. Knowing this, Savitri still decided to marry Satyavan. Their love was strong, and she wished to face this fate at his side. They married, and Savitri moved into the forest with Satyavan and his family. She took care of them happily. She knew that their time together would be short, so she decided to make sure every moment was a pleasant one. She also meditated and fasted to prepare herself for what was to come. On the day he died, she was at his side. She watched as he collapsed while cutting wood in the forest, and waited for Yama, the god of death. When Yama came to take Satyavan, Savitri followed. The god told her to turn back, but she continued to follow. She spoke of virtue and duty. Yama was impressed by her devotion and said he would give her 3 blessings as long as she didn't ask for Satyavan's life. She asked for the kingdom to be restored, for her father-in-law to have his sight returned, and the happiness of her family and a guarantee that she would have many descendants. Yama granted her these blessings, but realized he had to give Satyavan back his life if Savitri were to have descendants, as she could only have children with her husband. Yama was not angry by this. In fact, he was impressed by Savitri's intelligence and love for her husband. Satyavan's father could see again and was reinstated as king, as his usurper had died mysteriously. This story is an example of love being strong enough to conquer fate. I'm glad this story had a happy ending. Yes, Satyavan died, but Savitri was able to bring him back, unlike Orpheus and Eurydice. But I suppose they had a happy ending as well, as they were reunited eventually in the underworld. Thanks for joining me, everyone, for part 1 of Romance in Folklore. Part 2 will be out shortly. And the poem I read at the beginning is by the Scottish poet Robbie Burns.